Welcome to another edition of Art of the Kickstart. Today is a special show because we are speaking with Jackson, a 15-year-old inventor of a campaign that actually just launched a few moments ago called Save Our Species. We are also joined by Jackson's dad, Gavin, who's been helping him with the launch of SOS. So Jackson, Gavin, thank you so much for joining us today on the show.
Fantastic.
Great to be here, yeah.
Great to be here, and fantastic to be live. Wonderful effort by all the amazing team at Inventus. We're thrilled.
Yeah, so I know it's always a big day on launch day, and I'm super excited to be able to have you guys on the show on launch day and kind of talk through all the jitters that you have. But before we get into all that, let's just dive into the project, Jackson, and let's talk a little bit about where this all started and what inspired you to create Save Our Species.
Well, we were in Costa Rica, and there's lots of amazing wildlife in Costa Rica, and we're playing lots of card games. So we thought it'd be a cool idea to create our own card game to do with wildlife. And if people were as engaged with like wildlife cards as they are with football cards or Pokemon cards, and if the money from that went to charity, then that'd be a huge positive change. We also read this great book called Monkeys Are Made of Chocolate, which is a really interesting wildlife book, and it gave us a couple of the key concepts that are in SOS, like national parks, and wildlife corridors, which is super important in SOS.
Cool. Good. Nothing more to add.
Amazing. So in terms of the invention itself and the gameplay around it, talk a little bit about the product and the game and how it all works, and where it started in terms of how you came up with the idea, created the cards and all of that, to where the project is now active on Kickstarter.
So we were originally thinking creating a board game, and then that kind of morphed into a card game because it's simpler and easier, quicker, and more fun. And then we kind of came across we kind of worked very quickly into a gameplay that seemed to work, which is, so you have 7 cards each, and you take it in turns to discard and pick up cards, trying to match sort of tricks like in Rummy, as it would. And so you have 4 different biome types, which are essentially the suits in a card game. So you've got ocean, forest, grasslands, and polar. And then you match habitat cards and species cards together from the same biome type to create biomes. And then you get points for the species that are in the biomes. And the rarer the species, the higher the points. And then whenever people create biomes, then an event card is turned over. And event cards can be positive or negative, and they're similar to a chance in Monopoly. So they can destroy habitat cards, and if your species cards are left with no habitat left, then they become extinct and you lose the points for them. And there are also 2 sort of wild cards. So there's a national park card, which protects your habitat from event cards that would destroy habitat. And there are corridor cards, which come from wildlife corridors, which we discovered in the book Monkeys Are Made of Chocolate. And you can use them to connect one of your biomes to another player's biome, which means you get their points as well, their species points as well as your own, because it means the species can like move freely between and get more points.
Just pausing on that for a moment. So the book that Jackson's talking about, the author is a guy called Jack Ewing. He's an amazing American guy who bought a big farm in Costa Rica and proceeded to turn it back to rainforest. And the concept of this wildlife is something he's been advocating within Costa Rica, but actually within the whole of the Americas. You have these amazing national parks in Costa Rica, loads of them, but so many of them are
separated by like farmland.
Exactly.
So then the wildlife corridors are just strips of habitat that connect the other habitat together.
Exactly. And he's spearheading an initiative to connect the whole of North America right down through to the whole of South America. So it's possible for animals to move safely literally from North America to South America. So, and it's a very, very powerful card in the game, isn't it? So it can kind of flip.
It's quite a game changer.
It can flip the game, because if Roy, if you're playing and you've very proudly created this incredible rainforest biome with all these amazing species. Jackson's hanging on to his corridor card until quite late in the game, connects to you, gets your points, and it kind of flips the game.
Yeah. There is also a risk with that because a few of the event cards allow people. So you steal cards from the other people. So like you take it in turns to take one from the person next to you, and if your corridor card gets stolen, you only get one at the beginning. So then that might like ruin your plans. So you can't really hold on to them for too long. It's a bit risky.
So there was a good bit of jeopardy. When you talk a little bit, I mean, keep talk a bit about the development process, because you say it kind of quite quickly became a card game, but then very slowly became a game that is over multiple years, right?
So it was, like we said, a board game, and then it went to a card game, which we found a good thing that worked, but it was still quite complex. And then we've done we've tested it with friends and family, and that helped us make it a bit simpler. And then also WWF did a extensive consumer research trial, which a few families got sent the game and they played it, and they gave us some feedback, and we found a few more ways to simplify it from there. And then we've just been making a series of games.
Show them. So it's literally the key thing here is it's been through literally dozens of different versions. And although Jackson's he's showing you different, it's not so much about the look and feel; it's about the gameplay.
Yeah.
And so the gameplay through each of these different iterations over 3 years has been played by literally thousands of people, and every single time they've loved it, but it's just got a bit simpler. So the kind of the ethos, the bit of the game is absolutely still there, but every time we kept peeling stuff away and realizing, wow, it's the same game but easier.
It's quite crazy when we came up with an improvement, and that effectively made it the same but so much easier to understand.
Yeah. So
I think there's a great nugget in there for all the other creators, starting with something potentially really complex or an idea that's out there, but you guys did multiple different rounds of testing and iterations and continue to improve it, as well as feed your feedback cycle of how do we make this the best gameplay that it possibly can be. And usually, like with most inventions, the simplest invention usually wins, right?
Absolutely right. Yeah. And the other kind of real learning for us in there is it's essential to get it out to people from all walks of life. So, we started with friends and family, but essential to go beyond your immediate core of friends and family, to get it to all people, all walks of life. And really, really importantly, to listen very openly to your feedback. So is this kind of, you can be quite defensive as the inventor, and you kind of go, oh, well, no, but actually just listening to all that feedback and addressing all that feedback, it just kept getting better and better.
So one thing I'm really interested in is, how did your partnership with a huge global brand like WWF initiate? What was the process there, and how did they get involved with this gameplay?
Well, you can fill in on how we worked, but remarkably easy. I mean, it was they were the first people we approached, because we said, let's go for the best, right? Let's go for the most recognized brand in this space on the planet. In fact, one of the most recognized brands,
like the pandas,
on the planet, full stop, right? It's they're totally global, amazing brand. And it was we just hit a nerve with them straight away, the very first meeting, and we were very fortunate, because actually this was all kind of playing out during lockdown, so it was quite easy for Jackson to do lots and lots of meetings. But we hit a nerve, and I'll let you talk about working with them. But they were really looking for more initiatives to connect with younger audiences. So this was, to them, wow, here's a way to engage younger audiences and families together and through play. So it's kind of like learning, gamification of learning, really. It was a kind of quite a subtle way to get people to engage in species and the plight of species, in particular their habitats and what they could do about it. So they were incredibly excited, came on board really easily. We thought it was going to be, we're going to go through a list of 10 different charities, but we got lucky on the first one. Do you want to talk a bit about kind of working with them?
That's great.
The journey.
Well, it was pretty fun because we got to go on a call with their actual scientists from WWF, working out what species and habitat we're going to use in the game, helping us fact check the facts, because obviously they have to be absolutely correct for all the species.
Yep.
Yeah, that was super fun.
And again, quite involved, because these things, as always, get quite involved. You've literally got the head scientists, they've got the chief global polar scientist,
Yeah.
And you're getting into these debates, which sounds crazy, but he's like, well, we don't normally like to see penguins and polar bears together because they're on the opposite ends of the planet, So it's like, but then we have this debate about, well, we're going for a mainstream audience initially. They don't worry about that. We're not trying to educate that level. We can, in later versions, bring out really more precise, do the polar version, the Antarctic version.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of great stuff, wasn't there?
Yeah.
And the other big benefit of working with them is they clearly have a very high sustainability bar. So that was very helpful for us when selecting manufacturing partners, etc. Yeah. So it's the very highest level.
Cartamundi is pretty easy.
Yeah,
because there's no plastic. So Cartamundi have just started rolling out a paper wrap. So even the cellophane that comes on the cards when they're brand new, that's now paper as well. So there's literally no plastic, and it's got all the right inks and everything.
That's amazing.
The audience. So Cartamundi are the world's largest manufacturer of playing cards. They're European based, but they manufacture in multiple countries around the world, including a number of big factories in the US. So they're our partner, and they're amazing because they've been a partner since very early on. They're very big,
which
amazing.
So it's a bit of a challenge for a small company like us, but again, they got very into the mission and the vision behind it, and have been great to work with.
So speaking of vision, let's talk a little bit about the active crowdfunding campaign. I'm watching it in the background here, and it's going up hundreds of dollars as we speak. So this is great to see. But let's talk about how you were first introduced to crowdfunding. What was it? How was it? And then what made you decide to use crowdfunding to launch this game with?
Well, I think I first heard of crowdfunding was when I saw on the front of the Exploding Kittens box the most backed Kickstarter ever. So I was like, well, 5 years ago at least, and didn't know what Kickstarter was then. And then that was before we came up with SOS, and then it just kind of seemed, since from the beginning, it kind of seemed like we were leading up to Kickstarter, because it's just quite a simple way to, not simple, but
it's a great focus to have.
It's a good platform.
It's a great focus. So we have been, Jackson's saying there is that we have been very focused from the very outset of our first real major goal is to get this on Kickstarter. Yeah. There's a whole big retail launch coming after that. But Kickstarter is a very focused, discrete thing for us to do.
Well, it's easy to tell how well you're doing, and you can, because you can see very clearly how much popularity, how much growth it's having, and how big of a crowd you've got on there.
It's also been a big motivator for Jackson, as you can tell. So the whole Exploding Kittens Kickstarter story, he's back lots of things. He's really interested in it, and it's really helped drive him on. So today is a really, really big day. Yeah. And unlike you, we're not looking at it in the background because we'd be very distracted and not answering any of your questions properly, because it's been very exciting build-up. The other thing I'd say, the other bit to your question, Roy, was I think you said around sort of why crowdfunding. The other thing that's really great for us, it's this opportunity to build a community, to build a following. What SOS is all about, the fact that Jackson is, and we haven't even said it on this yet, has pledged very generously 100% of all profits from this game will go to charities. So 75% WWF, and 25% of it will go to other conservation charities that Jackson gets to choose. So that's his kind of long-term interest. And again, to be very clear, because it's a tight path we've had to walk. Kickstarter doesn't allow you to donate money to charity, so we've made it very, very clear on the site that the money we raise on Kickstarter is 100% going to be spent on manufacturing the game. The more we raise, the more stock we can buy, the more successful our conversations will be with retailers, the more retailers we can supply with stock. So all the money on Kickstarter is to manufacture, produce a game, build up stock. All profits that then come from selling the game in retail afterwards will go to those charities. So it's that kind of ability to build that community around Jackson. Again, it's easier to put Jackson front and center. He's front and center on the Kickstarter page in his film. Easier to do that than if we go straight to Amazon and a retail store launch. So it's amazing to have that opportunity.
Also, Kickstarter is useful for if you get a good Kickstarter, you can tell retailers about. Well, you can show them your Kickstarter campaign, and rather than just like telling them to just trust you that it's going to be good, they can actually see for themselves that
the combination of WWS reach and brand with retailers combined with actual evidence of demand on Kickstarter will be, I think, very powerful for us as we move forward.
Absolutely. You've proved market demand, you're showing it. Let's talk a little bit about the lead up, right? The build up, the anticipation of getting the crowdfunding campaign launched. What are a few tips that you would recommend to other young creators that they should do in order to get their campaign in such a good presentation state, getting it ready to launch?
I think having a good video is important because, like, rather than text, obviously videos are nowadays is a really good way of getting across your point and engaging people. So I think the video is quite an important thing. Also, making sure you prototype your game enough so that it's like really fun to play already. So you can't just like think of the idea and then just like guess the amount of each card you want. Like obviously we had to play the game hundreds of times to work out how many
tens of thousands of times
to work out exactly how many species and habitat you want, how many biomes or what event cards you want. Obviously it'll be different for other games, but you need to prototype the game to what you want.
And I would say it's kind of really planning ahead, getting your top line messages right. What is it we want to say? The as Jackson says, the video, but also all the other imagery and kind of branding around that is getting that prepared really clearly up front. And then very importantly, and where inventors have been fantastic because we wouldn't have known to do it. We wouldn't have known to do any of the things that your guys have coached us to do, but allowing plenty of time for a pre-campaign phase. So we ran a 5-week pre-campaign phase where we were putting SOS out there via social networks, via social network advertising, etc., to build up a database of emails of interested people, so we can have a kind of strong start. And the other reason it was incredibly important was it helps you flush out any issues and any errors and any things that are going to. Yeah, we had a really big one. Why don't you tell them the?
So this is at the start of the 6 weeks before the campaign where we're starting adverts, and we've put up some like card game adverts for SOS, and then it's been blocked by all the Facebook bots. Like all of them get blocked because apparently talking about conservation is a political topic. So Facebook bots block them because it deems them as political, and you need a political license to advertise politically on Facebook. So that set us back like a couple of weeks. So we had to register for a license so we could put up adverts. And even when we tried, we didn't even say conservation. We just said like wildlife, and it got blocked.
Wildlife is political too.
Yeah.
But again, to be clear, fantastic to have flushed that out early on. Your team was amazing. They were all over it. They were working with the reps
and
at
they
Facebook.
got approved faster than we would have done as well.
Absolutely. And so we deliberately delayed by a couple of weeks because we really wanted to have that run in. And the other thing that's fantastic is it gives you the chance to test loads and loads and loads of different adverts. So Jackson has been creating multiple shorts just straight to his mobile phone, little video clips, etc. and then your team they test all that, and we can very quickly and easily see the sort of things that are resonating and bringing more people to the campaign page. It means you can hit the actual campaign running at full speed.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, I mean, you guys have been working with us here at Inventus Partners for a while now. What were some of those considerations that you guys went through in choosing an agency to partner with in launching this amazing game?
Well, people's a key one. So our very early conversations with your team, in particular with Reed Phillips, well, the fact that he likes guitars, you like guitars, that helped. But no, to be serious, he was. They were fantastic conversations. He got it really quickly. The whole interaction at that stage was incredibly professional. Just the whole, we could see that you guys knew what you were doing. You've done it loads and loads of times before, so that experience was incredibly important.
Also, you
for us.
do all everything basically. So we only have to use one company. Like obviously, because you do Facebook advertising, created the campaign, all the pre-campaign stuff, and making the email database on the MailChimp and all that. So,
and we're also conscious that we're actually only using a small slice. Even everything that Jackson's described there is a small slice of what you actually do, and it's only really through geographical reasons, the fact that we're here in the UK and your teams are predominantly in America, that we didn't use you for all the prototyping and all the videos. In fact, we came to you when we were quite mature on that side, but would certainly consider that when Jackson does his next invention.
Amazing. Well, Jackson, this is going to get us into our launch round, where I'm going to rapid fire a handful of questions at you. You good to go?
Yeah.
Well, let's do it. So, at the young age, I know you started this 3 years ago, I believe, but what inspired you to be an entrepreneur?
Well, I think I've always found it super interesting to have to create something yourself. So like a product that is literally created by you, because you have loads of things around around the house which someone has created with manufactured it, sold it to you, a consumer, and it'd be cool to have. It's cool to have things that you've created and spent a lot of time on to get into people's houses and people to play it. And obviously, I love card games as well. So
Absolutely.
and I've always thought about making card games. I used to make card games when I was 6, just with cutting out paper and laminating them. So yeah, I've always found that interesting.
Nice. So if you could play the game SOS with any entrepreneur throughout history, who would it be?
Probably a creator of Exploding Kittens, I think, like Alan Lee. Yeah.
Okay. What would be your first question for him?
Probably how he got such a good Kickstarter. It's $9 million. Yeah, I guess.
Well, tips on making SOS better too, right? Would be quite handy. So we're hoping you're going to set that up, Roy. No, on a serious note, we're hoping to chat with those guys and get some. But anyway, yeah, they're impressive.
So, Jackson, what advice would you give to another young inventor who's looking to launch their idea?
Well, lots of prototyping, I'd say, and well, keep trying as well. So,
what about on the prototyping on the Mark Rober thing?
Oh yeah, I did this Mark Rober course. A lot of viewers have probably heard of Mark Rober. So he's a famous YouTuber. He used to work at NASA and Apple, and I did his course on product design, and that was interesting to know, to see the prototyping process on iterating design and coming up with ideas, and that was helpful for SOS.
Nice. So what's one invention that's made your life easier during the pandemic?
Like all the modern technologies for contacting people over the internet, like Zoom and all the chat, like Active Collab, Zoom, Teams. It made it super easy. It made it easy to contact like get on meetings with WWF, and like he said, I could be on most of the meetings, like almost all of them, because of Zoom. So yeah, that's been really helpful.
Yeah, it's amazing. Absolutely amazing what technology's done for the world. All right, Jackson, I know we just launched the campaign moments ago, but I'm still very interested to hear your take personally on what does the future of crowdfunding look like?
Well, I think it could become more of a more like retail, not actually retail, but more where people are like looking on Kickstarter for things they want to buy rather than like a donation thing. I mean, obviously it is already like that, but I think it will become more like that.
It'll become more and more
integrated
with retail, and Kickstarter will, and crowdfunding will probably move further and further down the development chain. The ability to just keep refining what people actually want and waste less stuff. Let's make stuff that people really want to buy rather than make it and see if they want to buy it. It's makes a whole lot of sense.
Absolutely. Well, gentlemen, this has been amazing. This is your opportunity to give our audience your pitch, tell people what you're all about, where they should go, and why they should check out SOS on Kickstarter.
Well, it's a super fun, quick to learn card game for the whole family. And if that's not enough, 100% of profits are donated to charity. And you can get a founders edition on Kickstarter, which is, I don't know if you can, you can see it on here. It's got holofoil on the front, and it's signed by me as well.
And where to go find it? Just go search Save Our Species on Kickstarter.
Save Our Species on Kickstarter.
Starts at £19.
Yeah.
$27. And there's a few great value bundles on there as well.
Yeah, gift packs.
And even if playing cards isn't your thing, then gift it to someone else. It's fun for all the family. Fantastic fun. I'll show them a few cards. And beautiful images too. So it's
Getty images. So like
these
high quality.
These images of all wildlife as it plays out on the table. You have this kind of amazing scenes kind of develop all over the table. Of all these incredible species and their habitats.
Well, it looks amazing. I can't wait to get my hands on it. I got to thank you guys both for joining me on the show today. Audience, thanks again for tuning in. Make sure to visit artofthekickstart.com for the notes, transcript, links to the active campaign. And of course, I got to give a shout out to our crowdfunding podcast sponsor over at Product Hype, the top newsletter for new products that just launched. Jackson, Gavin, thank you so much for joining us today on Art of the Kickstart.
You're welcome.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
Great talking to you, Roy.
Cheers.